Welcome to Core Finance, live from London, sponsored by Beaufort Securities, live on Facebook, Core Finance Facebook page, Twitter handle at Core Finance TV. I'm joined by Matt Brown. Morning to you, Matt.
Morning, Miss.
Right, let's kick off market movers. The headlines: equity markets trade lower, risk-off mode continues. Lots of people hate that risk-off terminology, but that's the case, right?
Yeah, it's a run for the hills trade, maybe. Look for safe havens. We've seen yen up, seen gold up, seen the Footsie up. Equity markets selling off. We saw the Footsie trade off yesterday. A lot of that was ex-div sell-off, but we saw S&P trade off last night. We've seen VIX at highs. I think yesterday it was the 8th biggest spike in the VIX. Bear in mind the VIX have been pretty much at all-time lows.
Yep.
Now we're back at levels seen around the US presidential election. So the market now is saying we're a bit concerned about what's going on in North Korea. And now this seems to be a catalyst for the markets to pull back from all-time highs. Now the question is this a buying opportunity or is this a continued downtrend? If the market does start to bounce over the next week or so from these lows, then I think it's a key indication that the market is strong, the earnings are still there. However, if this downward trend continues, I think it could go quite a bit lower.
Understood. Let's go on to the Footsie 100. One to watch, Rio Tinto. What's caught your attention now? I notice it's in red.
Yes, indeed. Red in the price and the logo. Now, this is, again, the risk-off trade, and we're seeing commodities, underlying commodities, sell off. So it's having an impact on miners, also having an impact on the Aussie dollar, Canadian dollar, and New Zealand dollar. All commodity currencies. No major news out of Rio Tinto, but it is at the top of the losing board this morning. I think down about 4%. So the miners really dragging down the Footsie. The Footsie's now down about 1% on the day.
Understood. Let's talk about AIM. One to watch, Fox Marble.
Yeah, very, very small one. I've spoken to the CEO previously. Now, this company produces high-grade, prestigious marble out of a mine in Kosovo, believe it or not. And they've just signed a deal this morning with a distribution deal in the US. The stock possibly could trade up on the back of this. That's a good market for them to be getting into. And we hope to have the CEO, Chris Gilbert, on the show in the coming weeks to talk about this.
Excellent. Let's talk about currencies. The Great British Pound, Euro cross 90.55 and cable 129.81.
Yeah, cable still flirting around this 130 level, now below it. Now it could be interesting as we've talked about the safe haven plays, the yen, Swissy, etc. Back in the day, sterling actually used to be a bit of a safe haven currency, so it'd be interesting to see if that comes back into play. But for the moment, below 130, and I think it's going to flirt around that level for the coming days.
Worth watching an Alessio Rastani video he did this week on cable. I thought that was an absolute fascinating segment. Right, let's move swiftly on to broker upgrades. You've chosen Berenberg today, Just Eat, buy recommendation. The previous target 660, nudging it up to 700. Any more to add to that?
Well, the stock's trading around £6. This is the kind of stay at home rather than go out trade. A lot of people using kind of Just Eat to have delivery, etc. Also worth noting, Berenberg made a call yesterday on Greggs, the bakers. The stock moved quite aggressively on the back of it, so they seem to have a good handle on the low-end food market and what's going on there.
Nothing wrong with their sausage rolls.
Exactly. Also worth noting, Domino's today, a competitor to Just Eat, have just announced they paid 24 million to take the franchise or take a share in the franchise for the London stores, about 25 stores. The market doesn't seem to like that, down about 4.5% on the back of this story. So take a look at Domino's. And also on the broker upgrade downgrades, worth noting, Exane have double downgraded Dixon's Carphone. So they had them as outperform, they're now saying they're going to underperform. So that's a sell in our world. The stock on the back of that is down 8%. So it goes to show these broker recommendations can move the market, the stock prices.
Right, let's move swiftly on to the core number today, 1.6 million versus 30 million. What's the headline there?
I think I'll let you explain this one.
Read with interest at the weekend, there's 1.6 million people who live in Barcelona.
Best city in Europe?
Best city in Europe.
No, London.
Totally agree. And 30 million people visit it. 30 million people go to Barcelona every year.
But that, I mean, that can cause a few problems with, certainly there's only a certain amount on a finite amount.
Transportation,
hotels,
infrastructure, hotel,
Airbnb,
absolutely.
etc. So do they start putting taxes on tourists on the back of that? So that's a huge number.
Right, let's wrap up with the economic calendar for today. In terms of the US CPI, the Fed's Kaplan speaks, and Baker Hughes recounts. So a few things in terms of to move the markets at the end of the week.
Yeah, flashing for me is CPI. That seems to
Yeah.
be the big number and has drawn a lot of focus this week. Dollar's been moving around quite aggressively on various news in the back of non-farm and jobs numbers at the start of the week. So that could be a big focus. But bear in mind, going into the weekend with the shadow of North Korea hanging over the markets, it may be a risk of, or just taking trades off ahead of the weekend. People don't want to be caught out with any news that comes out.
Matt Brown, thank you very much indeed.